Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday night edition of the Around the Ropes radio show. Now, you guys know we talk a lot about Brii Combination. Obviously, we have the Around the BCW World show every Thursday night. But I figured, why not have the governor on? We have not had the governor on the show, and the show's almost going to hit 4 years come November. So, welcome to the show for a first time. Some call him the Paul Heyman of BCW. Some call him the governor. But I call him the guy who somehow is attracted to gold. The one, the only, AJ Pan joins the show. AJ, welcome to the show for a first time, and that's weird for me to even say that part.
Thank you for having me. I know it's been way too long, but as you said, the governor's busy, got some things going on, but I'm glad we could finally make time to make this happen.
Absolutely. But before we get into what's going on right now in Brii, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now in Brii I want to touch on. Just want to kind of go back with what got you into pro wrestling. Was there a moment, a match?
It's funny because just growing up between both of my parents, my dad, I tell stories, a funny story. So my dad is a boxing fan. He was a huge boxing fan. And my mother's a soap opera fan. One day, flipping around the channels one night with my mom, and we just happened upon something on TV, and I told him, wait, stop. I said, isn't this the guy Daddy knows? And it was Buster Douglas when he had just won the World Championship from Mike Tyson in the huge upset. So he was the guest referee for Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage on a Saturday night's main event. And that right there, just seeing the color, I was attracted just to the antics of Randy Savage, the colorfulness. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I got to learn more about this. And just from then on, we found at that time there was WWE Superstars on, Saturdays on Channel 5, Wrestling Challenge on Sundays. And from there, my love of wrestling just grew. I got to see all these and learn about all these characters, and it incorporated the soap opera aspect that I knew from my mom and all the shows she watched. So I got to combine, my two parents' love, sports and entertainment.
And it's funny you bring up the soap opera part. My mom's a diehard General Hospital fan. She's been watching it for as long as I can remember, and It's probably been even longer than that. So I know people have always equated pro wrestling as being the male soap opera, in essence.
100%.
Just the only difference is wrestling you have men fighting in ties, and in soap operas you have guys beat each other with crowbars.
Yeah.
But so now, did you want to become a wrestler, or did you always have the image of being like the manager or like more behind the scenes?
Yeah, I was never disillusioned. I was never a big athlete in school. I was always the one joking around, talking. So growing up, as you said, I admired guys like Paul Heyman, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Those were two of my hugest influences, and made me realize, oh, okay, I don't have to be the athletic guy. I don't have to be in the ring to make a difference, to make an impact. These guys are affecting my life, so I can use my personality and stuff to get others over and add to the product. So definitely, I was never one to, I didn't think I was going to be a world champion. I wanted to manage the world champion and help put them over, but I didn't want to compete in the ring.
Well, I mean, look at what you've been doing right now in Brii. And obviously, we'll get to Brii a little bit later. Between Notorious Mimi, Studded Law, I mean, you kind of have people who are draped in gold, so it's kind of working for you right now. But now I know, got your start in the 5-star wrestling, right? Or
way back in the day, I worked for a small company, IWF. I was one of the notables when I later on was FWE Family Wrestling Entertainment. Okay. I was the ring announcer there, and it was before they closed out. I was going to start managing, but I was ring announcer. Kind of, I had some associates, healers. I was starting to grow as a character, but that's where I started to getting more backstage responsibilities, and I started agenting and producing my first matches for that company.
So then, obviously, let's jump forward a little bit. Obviously, you get brought into Brii Combination.
Yes.
Now, was that you? How did you find out about Brii? How did that whole relationship get started?
A friend of mine at the time, Peter Rosado, he was working there, and he suggested me to help him commentate and potentially manage. So I came in the company had started 6 months prior. I came in after that, and just from there, my relationship with Anthony Cole and the rest of the locker room and people who were in charge back then, just, a lot of people knew my reputation at the time, and Cole began to saw that. He trusted me, and my duties there just evolved.
So then, obviously, while you're at Brii, obviously you had a little bit of a run with Titan, because that's where I also remember. Was that through Brii or was that separate?
No, that was separate because, like, I've been doing, I had FWE. I was working for ECWA for 5 years. I had a run there, Five Boroughs Wrestling, FCW Wrestling. So I've been around, yeah, but I think that ECWA, that was one of my biggest accomplishments, my 5-year run there as one of the top heel managers, and my stable, the PCA. We had a great run there. So my reputation succeeded me, and yeah, like during actually Titan came right at during the COVID. They returned before Brii did, so just got lucky there, and they were looking for something, and myself and Ray Calitri were in discussions with them, and we made our debut there.
And even there, you were draped in gold too. It's like every time you go somewhere, it's like you just automatically they just give you the belt right away.
Well, I mean, we work hard, and it's a mix of Thankfully, I've worked with a lot of talent who we complement each other. They can handle themselves in the ring, and sometimes we bring things out of each other. With promos, I have a lot of great promos with different talents I've managed. Like one key example, Joey Ace. He helped me a lot to see how to cut promos differently, and just people have told me our dynamic it was a great period of, I like to say, my time, I hope his time as well. It just clicked, and we had the great promos. We had a great interaction in the ring, coming to the ring. It was just a perfect marriage there. So then that's what I always wanted to do. Like, it was never really like, just to get myself over. I always felt I could add something to someone I saw who I didn't think was getting the right push or just the right treatment. And thankfully, when people saw us together, it worked. It helped elevate others' careers.
No, absolutely. Now, obviously, you've been doing the manager stuff now for a while. How important do you feel the manager is to a wrestler? How important is that, do you think?
I think the manager has definitely a great important role. It helps a lot because there's no exact formula, and it's tough in wrestling because you do have some who are just great wrestlers, as we've seen. You have some who are just great talkers. It is there, but it's tough that you have both. So the manager is great to come in handy for those who don't have talking abilities. It's like in real life, just some people are better, at their desk jobs or whatever, whatever. They have a better, I don't know what the right phrasing is. Like, they have more comprehension of certain things that are not as social. And certain people sound bad, but just some more people are more outgoing. And that's how it is in wrestling. While some people are very technical or can do the high flying stuff, but they can't communicate to the audience beyond that. And that's where the manager comes in, where they can elevate them and they can talk them up and get the crowd more engaged while they're doing what they're doing in the ring. So I think it's definitely a role that is needed, and it's tough. It's sad that it's lost on a lot of places, but the manager can definitely help out a lot of talents who need it.
Oh, no, I definitely see where you're coming from. I've seen, being a wrestling fan all these years, I've seen the wrestlers who don't talk and have the managers are the ones I feel like get more of a benefit, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%.
Because the way I look at it is you have somebody, a prime example, when Brock Lesnar, when he first won the Universal title, and Paul Heyman obviously was his advocate, and Brock did no talking. Very little talking.
Yes.
You felt like, okay, once Paul was talking, and he basically said to him, basically turn around and say, well, you don't want to mess with me. I got, the beast right behind me. You were kind of intimidated.
Oh, yes. You 100% were. And, Brock, of course, he has that star presence. That wouldn't have changed. But the fact that he had Heyman in there, he comes out and, starts with, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul. And that alone gets the crowd to give some sort of reaction. Some love him, some hate him. But that already adds to the aura of Brock, who's just standing there right behind him, like, this guy's a loudmouth. This guy needs to shut up. But then you have just Brock just standing right behind, knowing whoever comes out, they're going to get their ass kicked, most likely.
But like I've noticed on the other side, when you have a wrestler who can talk and they have a manager, there's kind of like that weird dynamic, because then I sit there as a wrestling fan and I'm like, okay, you can talk, then why would you per se need the manager if you can cut a promo well? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, in most cases that is true, but you have some, it depends. There's just some people who click. Like, I would like when it was Heyman and CM Punk together, I think that was a great time. Both could talk. They just had that relationship. It worked. A lot of times it won't work because maybe they're talking over each other, or both have too much of a personality, too much charisma that it just clashes. But it can work. It's just, again, I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Exactly. And then obviously I want to look more, what you've been doing now with Brii, because obviously, yes, you've had people who you've worked with who have been draped in gold, obviously Notorious Mimi. And speaking about Mimi, I want to go back to a moment last December, and you know exactly what moment I'm referring to, where you pulled off the shock of the year, I feel.
Thank you.
Now, I can tell you now, obviously, we've been covering Brii on the show now for last 3 years. First show we covered was the 5th anniversary show, the show that I always poke fun at Anthony Cole for because there was no bottom rope.
That's wrestling for you. And that wasn't Cole's fault. That's we're not gonna point fingers, but it's held in the Mecca. Just something happened, and it happens. It's wrestling. Could be worse. Could have been a tree stump, as we've seen circles around.
I mean, I've been lucky enough since the show's been happening, I've gone to a lot of indie shows. I've been to a lot of shows now where there hasn't been a bottom rope, a middle rope, or a top rope. So I've seen all three.
The top rope's more important, I think. So I'm glad we at least the bottom rope you can work with, but the top rope's a tough one.
Now, obviously, in the moment I'm talking about, in case people are watching this and don't know what I'm talking about, obviously Notorious Mimi won Queen of the North last year. And basically, for people who are watching who may not know, Queen of the North is basically like Money in the Bank for it.
It's a blend of Queen of the Ring and yes, the Money in the Bank.
And basically, you have the ability, if you win it, you have the ability to cash in. Obviously, I could be wrong on this. There's no like I know with Money in the Bank, there's you have up to a year. I don't know if that's the same with Queen of the North.
It is, yes, it is.
Okay, because I was going to say, I know there's a few people like Christina Marie who won it a couple of years ago, and I don't think she ever cashed in.
No, unfortunately, it expired. So yeah.
But obviously, Mimi won it, and everybody was like, okay, when is she going to cash in? Now, people were figuring, okay, it's going to be at a big show. Figure it was going to be, the New Year's show or the anniversary show, and no. Somehow you pulled it off. Without going too much into detail, obviously, because, I don't want to. How did it come to fruition that you were going to that this was going to happen, or were you just like, let's just go for it and see what happens?
It goes back to my years in the business and just being smart about how you're going to do things. All the past Queen of the North, they wanted to be upfront about when they were going to cash in, and that's fine. They want to go that route, but it's better to keep your cards close to the vest. And I have to give it to the faithful because they gave us the opportunity because we had a fans' choice match, and they could have picked either Notorious Mimi, Christina Marie, or Faye Jackson to face Vicious Vicky. They chose Mimi. That's where the key comes in. The fans chose this match. This wasn't a cash-in. We had that in our back pocket. So win, lose, or draw, I had it in my mind that was the night it was going to happen, one way or the other. And, who knows? I mean, I'm not going to spill anything, but maybe we did have it in our minds. Maybe we gave Vicky that first win to give her in that sense of security and make her think it was over. I won't go, but maybe, who knows? Or maybe Vicky did win that fair and square, but I always had that plan B in my pocket. I realized most people were going to forget or they might have thought that was the shot, but no, that was the fans' choice. That wasn't our shot. We didn't call it our shot. We called it afterwards, and history was made.
It's funny. You're saying it now, and I remember that show, and I remember it was a fan's choice. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from on that. But like I said, it was definitely a moment that I think when you look back, we always look back, as as we get closer to the 10-year anniversary, and you go back to like those moments
Yes.
that make BCW. I think that's going to be one of the moments that you're going to look at and say, okay, you remember where you were when this happened. But obviously, you have Mimi now, and I've said this on the show a couple of times now. Mimi's in a very interesting position as the queen, as your current BCW Women's Champion,
Yes.
because of the fact of, yes, I know you just said before Christina Marie, her Queen of North expired, so she's really not going to be there. You still have Faye Jackson, who's still lingering there. You don't know if and when we're ever going to see Vicky again. And obviously, coming out of what we served last Thursday, you also now have Harleen Lopez kind of in the mix now. I mean, like I said, she's in a very tough position, I feel.
She's if you want to be champion, any champion is. But Mimi's been around for a little bit. She's young, but people forget. She's probably been around about almost 5-6 years now. She's climbing into that territory, and I don't want to say an anomaly, but she has gotten this business so quick. And she's another one. When I first saw her, I saw her maybe a little over a year, or maybe just about a year into her run, and I noticed right away, like, this girl has something. She has that it factor. And it took a while for us to find. We worked a few shows together, but she's one I always had an eye on, and I hope the day that our paths would cross in a more regular atmosphere, and I would have the chance to represent her. And we've made matches together. I've had a great time working with her, and she's one of the few I've worked with. I feel, as we spoke about earlier, that I think we complement each other. Like, she doesn't need me per se, but working together, it just works. And getting her now to this position, if I could pull some strings, that's fine. But we complement each other so well. She's great in the ring. She's a great talker. Yes, she has a target on her back. But as she said after she won it, if everybody thought Vicious Vicky's reign was something in BCW, wait till you see Mimi's reign. She wants to eclipse that and make her history. Besides the cash-in, she wants her reign to stand the test of time.
Oh, I can definitely see that. I definitely can see that. But want to look at Son-in-Law here, because obviously they defeated your former clients there, Heather Monroe and Ray Lynn.
Yes.
Now, obviously, it's a little different now with the tag titles, because we don't see the tag titles as often as we see the BCW heavyweight title or the women's title. Do you think, how do you see them as champions, and do you think they could eclipse what we just saw with Heather Monroe and Ray Lynn and have a long run with that belt?
That match was, in my eyes, I didn't. It was just mainly there was a little time, I wanted Emily and Journey to prove themselves. I really personally thought that Blonde Force Trauma were going to retain, but I just wanted to give them the opportunity to see how they would handle themselves, and they surprised everybody, me included. Happy surprise after everything dust settled. I'm happy at their progression, and they've had a fantastic reign so far. I love seeing Journey has been leaps and bounds. She's been impressing me and becoming more and more just a threat in that ring. Emily just has that natural aura around her, and she's been doing a thing. And these two girls clicked. About a year before, they were fighting each other. They weren't nowhere on the same page. And when I just saw them, opportunities arose, and I just looked at them, and like they were just Journey was a little jealous of my attention to Emily. Emily just had a couple things going on. So I was like, you know what? Maybe you two need to get together. I said, you two need to prove yourselves. And who else to prove yourselves against? Against Blonde Force Trauma, who were fantastic champions. I love working with them. Hopefully they'll be back, in the future. But yeah, I'm extremely proud of Journey, how far they've come. Their reign, they've been killing it so far. So, and they could only get better.
Exactly. No, I get what you're saying, and it's funny when you talk about tag teams, that were fighting and then finally got back together. Great example of that was look at Sheamus and Cesaro.
Yes.
They had that 7. It was the best of 7 series, and the last match went to a draw, and then all of a sudden they became. Obviously, we know where Cesaro is now, and Sheamus is doing his stuff, but. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to see two people who may not like each other all of a sudden have that bond. And I think Emily J and Jody Burke, with Mimi, obviously with yourself there, I think it's safe to say, BCW kind of runs through, your little group there.
I mean, we tried definitely, and again, I like to see opportunities given. I felt like as soon as I saw Emily and Journey, I wanted to help them in their career. As I said earlier, Journey less than a year in when I first saw her, and maybe it's egotistical of me, but I said I want to see her live, and then talking to her, I thought I could help her along and guide her a little bit and give her some advice and help her see certain things. And now, we've spoken almost 2.5 years later, how she's just grown so much. I'm so impressed with her. Especially like this past, at this past event, I saw him like watching. I'm like, wow, I can't believe from the girl I first saw to where she is now, and it hasn't been that long in the span of things. And Emily, she's another one. She just gets it, and she just have the people. No matter what we try to do, the people love her. We could, when I first debuted with her, a little something slipped into the ring, and she did something maybe some would have called, underhanded or whatnot, but the people ate it up, and that's what matters in wrestling. As long as people are reacting,
Yeah.
whether they love you, they hate you, as long as they're not sitting on their hands or indifferent. So,
No, believe me, I totally get where you're coming from in that. And one other person, obviously, from your group, and that's everybody's favorite intern, Jerry. I've got to include Jerry in all this. Do you see, obviously, like I said, Mimi has a belt, Jody Burke and Emily J obviously are the tag champs. Do you see a possibility of intern Jerry possibly holding gold at some point?
there's always that possibility. I mean, he means well. He's a good kid. He listens. He's definitely developing more. I definitely, if he keeps to it 6, and keeps his mind focused and just listens and keeps progressing the way he is, I could surely see him having a championship run. His performances are, getting better. When I first get his first match in BCW, I wanted to. Again, like I said earlier, I did love him. I didn't think he was going to win, but I thought it was a chance for him to prove himself when he faced Mike Law. Just facing a veteran, his first match in BCW, and then speaking with Mike Law, I mean, he surprised me. He got his first appearance. He got a huge reaction from the BCW faithful. But afterwards, speaking with Mike Law, he had a lot of complimentary things to say about him. He just thought, he said he needs to keep training, keep getting on where he's at. But for the time he was in the business, he was like, I was impressed. So, Jerry definitely has, and always in wrestling, expect the unexpected. But yeah, I can totally see Jerry getting gold in the future. You never know. He just needs to keep on the path that he's on.
Exactly. It's funny talking about intern Jerry's first match. I was at that show, and I remember he pulled me to the side, and I came with. I met my friend Billy at the show, and obviously Billy's not in the. Well, Billy, yes, now she's more in the industry now, doing the ring announcing. And Jerry looked at me, and I remember this, and I'll say this on the show right now. I said this before. He turned around and he goes, "I'm happy everybody else came." He goes, "But I'm happy for one specific person showing up." And I kind of looked at him like, "Who?" And he goes, "Me." And I'm like, "But I'm not in the industry." And he goes, "No." He goes, because of the fact that it was his first match and I doing this, he goes, it meant a lot to him. So if I could have that little part of it, I was like, you know what? I would do it in a heartbeat. I would really, and to have wrestlers kind of say that, it really means a lot.
Yes.
It really does. But I want to go look now at Queen of the North here for a second. Obviously, Queen of the North just happened on Thursday. And from what I saw, phenomenal turnout, by the way.
Yes. On a Thursday with a state of emergency going on. That was a hell of a day. But I'm glad, yes, there have been a lot of rave reviews. I got to see most of the show and very impressed with everybody. But that was an eventful day.
Now, obviously, we saw that Harleen is now your Queen of the North. Going into this, I was actually talking to Anthony Cole about this. I spoke to Cole about this on our last Around the BCW show. And I want to ask you this question. Do you think going into that, Harleen kind of had a chip on her shoulder because of what happened last year?
Oh, she didn't. She's made no qualms about calling me out and getting on my case, calling me names, and her prerogative. Hey, as I'm here to. I've never shied away from everything. I'm always going to have my client's interest are my first priority. So, and Queen of North triple threat match, no disqualifications, no anything. So I was whatever. I was making sure that Mimi was going to win that, however way I could. But you know, as being the guy, it's tough sometimes to have to separate that person from the governor.
Yeah,
And while I might not like Harleen in some instances, I will never not say that she's a fantastic talent. She's another one in a different time I might have been able to represent. I definitely see a lot of great qualities in Harleen. She's another one. The minute I saw her, this girl has something. She's tough as hell. She always since her first appearance, she has something to prove. And there once in a blue, I do. She's still finding her way, but this was a great step for her. But that tournament was loaded. Anybody that night, I said on a shot of BCW, a week earlier. This is one of our most stacked tournaments in a while. We've had first time we've had such a half of the competitors were of international presence, and they contacted us to be a part of it. So most of the time it's us looking at people, and then the other it was a great one. But Harleen definitely she came in, she had something to prove. Everybody did, but Harleen she wasn't going to be denied, and she became Queen of the North, and she had even before that night she had a long road since her debut in BCW to get to this point.
absolutely. And I've said this a lot, especially seeing Harleen's progress, that we always talk about like the main event scene of the women's division with Mimi. And I'll put Vicky in there, even though I know she hasn't been there. I still think when she does come back, she is going to be a part of that main event scene. Faye Jackson when she comes back. But I think Harleen is becoming slowly pushing that glass ceiling a little bit, where I see her becoming a part of that. I think in the next year.
Yeah, so BCW, we don't have a glass
Yeah,
ceiling. It's like you just prove yourself. As long as people prove themselves, there's opportunities. And Harleen, definitely, she has to work her way up, but she's definitely proving herself. And winning the Queen of the North, that's a huge step in the right, next direction. Now, as long as she could either she sustains what she's doing or she keeps moving forward, I definitely see a huge future for Harleen. She's one of those, yeah, and she's not going to say one of the rare ones, but we've seen her face people like Nevaeh Santel, as the Tiffany Evans, but also Leo Sparrow. Leo Sparrow had a fantastic match. I love that match. So she goes at it, men and women. So from the women's championship, and other gentlemen of the company, I definitely see her, having a long future as long as she doesn't get signed, which hopefully she does. But as long as we have her, looking forward to a lot of big moments from Harleen Lopez in the future.
and you bring up people who should be signed. There's two names I want to get to before we get to obviously what's coming up in September, and that's your current Grand Dragon champion Jay Bougie, and you're obviously the All Father, Darius Carter. I mean, what can you say about these two guys? I mean, what they've done, especially Darius. I've made the joke now since I've been a fan, a part of the Brii faithful. I feel like Darius has basically been the only champion especially for the world heavyweight. I know there was that little bit of time when it was Marina Shafir, but 95% of the time it's been Darius.
I mean, Darius is that guy in front of the camera, behind the camera. He is that leader. I've known Darius way before Brii. We've been friends. I've just seen it. Like he carries that aura, but he has that deep love for professional wrestling. Think what you want about him in front of the camera. Yes, he's one of the biggest a-holes in professional wrestling. He's one. He's the reverse Ricky Steamboat that it's hard to turn him heel. Darius, I think it would be. You never know. It might happen down the line, but I can never see Darius as the quote-unquote babyface.
No.
And he does his role well because that, to an extent, that is Darius. It's not how he's behind the scenes, but that is definitely an extended version. Darius Carter. But he's proven why he deserves to be there. No matter who you put him against, he can get them to a quality match. So Darius definitely deserves that. And there hasn't really been anyone in BCW yet to really carry that torch. We see that link, though. We see that Jay Bougie does think he's getting on that level. Bougie's another one. And I don't want to say I see him as the young Darius, but like he comes. I saw Bougie. I think he's another one within his maybe first year of in the business. We worked at a company, Upper Limit Wrestling, and just like he's one of the very. I don't want to say very few, but like he stood out to me on that card, and just very charisma. He was learning more in the ring, getting more comfortable, but the charisma was there. I'm like, ooh, like who is this kid? And we had a lengthy conversation afterwards, and from there, just the more I saw him and we worked together, I was very impressed. And finally, when the opportunity came, I'm like, me and Mr. Cole discussed things, and when we were working on rebuilding the brand and the roster coming back from COVID, I said, this kid is one we definitely need to look at and discuss having come in. And he just continued every time out to show up, show out, and get to the place where now he made himself the Grand Dragon champion in a fantastic match with Anthony Gangone. The only issue is now he's been sticking his nose into Darius's business, and we see where that's been going. So,
yeah, that's like sitting there saying, "Yeah, I want to go poke the bear," and the bear happens to be, one of the most. Actually, I don't want to say one of the most, probably the most dominant champion.
Yes,
I think we've seen in the almost 9 years of Brii Combination.
Oh yeah.
And, obviously, we mentioned, all the champs, but there's other people also that I think I have to give a little bit of credit to. One of them who I've always said has put on great matches. I know him and I sort of have a tricky friendship there, and that's Anthony Gangone, Dr. Sleep.
Yes.
Obviously, we know what happened when he lost the Grand Dragon, what that led to, and all that stuff. You want to talk about somebody else who I feel like should be signed to a big company. It's Gangone.
Yes, yes.
I mean, what do you think about with him right now? The progression he's made.
Gangone right now, he's one I could definitely say he's at the top of his game. He's another one. I believe I met him and Darius around the same time in a company, Five Borough Wrestling. They were in a stable together, and Gangone, I've told him this, for a while, and I've said, he was finding his way. He was always in the ring, very technically savvy, and always had that unique style about him. But just finding that right kind of character, what it was, something that there was just something that wasn't clicking. There was a disconnect. When Dr. Sleep finally came to him, that's when I saw everything fire, and that's when he just started taking over. And I was so happy to see that, because he's always one I always felt was so underrated, undervalued in this industry. And whenever somebody would ask me, besides the usual suspects, Gangone was always one's name I threw out there. And I got Cole to finally take a chance on him, and everything started to grow. And finally, when Dr. Sleep, just again, once I saw him get that, I forget, it's blank on me. I could see visualize, can't remember the name of the show, but once I saw him debut that, I'm like, ooh, this is who he is. This is, I don't know if it's his final form, but this is the form that he needed to get to that next level. And since seeing that, it's just been, it makes me happy every time out to see him come out there and just feel himself and feel so comfortable in the ring, both on the mic, his presence, and in the ring. So Gangone definitely won. He's just settled into that character. I'd say give him another year or two, and I think more people will be knocking on his door.
Well, I was going to say the Dr. Sleep character is almost like Bray Wyatt, almost.
And it's in that vein, yes. I know. I know Gangone is definitely, out of the ring. He's a big horror fan. So, yeah. I mean, like everything, you have the best things in wrestling are what's real to that person. That's a lot of his, me, as I said, soap operas. I'm a big Entourage fan, so that's, that's where more of the Asian character evolved from after I saw that show. And, Ari Gold became a bit more of an influence besides my past, wrestling influences of Bobby Heenan, Paul Heyman. But those are always the best, as you can see with Darius. He has a big European. He loves the European wrestling scene, and you can see kind of the William Regal kind of, influences among others. So, yeah, when Gangone finally leaned into more, you know what? I love this. Let me try to see how this clicks with everybody. And the fact that he felt comfortable and could adapt more of that love into the love of professional wrestling, money.
And one last thing I'm going to mention with Gangone that I want to move ahead what's coming up in September is the fact that Gangone can have the Dr. Sleep character, but in other promotions right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that. Like a lot of times I've learned being a part of this crazy independent wrestling world, Like if you have a person who wrestles for company A, and then they're in company B, a lot of times you'll see they'll be two different people.
Yes.
Gangone is one of the few people who it's like you can see him in a Brie ring, a Titan ring, CZW, and you're getting the same character no matter what.
Yes.
But obviously, I want to look ahead now. Grand Rumble's coming up.
Yes.
Now, I know obviously people who are not watching, who don't know, yes, obviously the Grand Rumble is a tribute to your mother. How, when, first of all, was it your, like, how did that whole thing come up that it was going to become a tribute, so to speak?
So it was so this is going to be our third year. So about 2 years ago, it was the 5th anniversary of my mom's passing. And I had just spoke to, when realizing that, I just spoke to Mr. Cole, on the side, and I asked him, I said, listen, obviously your company, I'm not going to tell you or feel bad if you tell me no. I said, but, he knew my mom. She came to a lot of the earlier shows. And I asked him, I said, it's the 5-year anniversary of mom's passing. I would, if there's any chance we could do anything to, commemorate, tribute my mom, I never got to in any other company. Would it be okay if we did something at some point this year? And he was like, oh my God, you kidding? Like, no, it's not even a question. He's, I love Mama Pam. She was so great and so supportive. So that year, Summer on Smash, which was in June, which was her birthday month, that was the first time we did a tribute to her. And just the way we did, because, we did, it was supposed to be a fun event, a normal event, but, we did things too. Like when we saw out the show. And as I mentioned, when I do, my governor's ball during the Mama Pan shows, my mom was not a solemn person. She's like me. She loved to have a good time with the party. So we weren't going to do, anything like a 10-bell tribute or something sad. We were going to do a dance party. It was the time we were going to break kayfabe and invite everybody to come to the ring and have a good time where we wanted to. In my mind, and speaking with Cole, that was supposed to be maybe a 2 to 5 minute segment. But the crowd was eating it up. The talent had fun and kept coming in. And after the show and for months after, people kept asking, is this going to be an annual thing? We love that. A lot of wrestling, I don't see that. And when speaking to Cole, and Cole's like, oh, this is going to be a yearly thing now. I'm like, I'm speechless. That's so touching. Mom would, be so honored. But the fact that, too, that everybody from myself, from the BW Faithful and the talent, all loved the way that we handled that and did that tribute at the beginning of the show. It always makes me feel so warm talking about that. And the fact that they helped, they're the ones who helped make this an annual event. So I'm always thankful to, I always say, like, and the fact that the more involved I am in wrestling, everything in life, we love things, we hate things. No matter how many times I hate things in wrestling sometimes, it's stuff like that reminds me of my love for it. Because again, like stuff like where else would I in my normal life would I get to commemorate my mom like the way we're doing? And again, to have fans and my fellow peers and coworkers tell me they want to be a part of this. They love doing this. So, and now this is going to be our 3rd year of being able to honor my mom. It's just a huge, huge honor and one of the greatest things when all said and done, I could say that I, got to do in this business.
Well, I guess that kind of leads into my, and I hear it in your voice. That kind of leads to my next thing, though, is now that it's becoming an annual thing, it's becoming a staple. I mean, you have the anniversary show, you have the New Year's show, you have the Halloween show, the Christmas show, but now the tribute to your mom is now a part of that. With all the history of Brii Combination, and now, I mean, we're on the verge of almost 10 years for Brii Combination. I mean, that must be something where, even though, yes, I know when you're in that ring, you're supposed to be, the agent, the governor, whatever, but there's a part of you that's probably sitting there going, sitting there going, Mom, I wish you were here, type of deal.
Oh, yes. In that moment, definitely, like, I feel her presence when we get to do these. And like I said, it's such a good time. Like we forget, like at that when we do that, like it is like we forget kayfabe for a moment. I say, listen, this is just time for everybody. If you met her, you didn't meet her. Just I want you to feel her spirit, and you know, we've had a couple different styles, and we would just to see everybody having a good time and getting in there and see the, you know, too, the first one was like, oh, the fans are gonna get tired of this. Like, even I remember in the first one, as I'm seeing, I think I'm like in my head, I'm like, I think we got to everybody. I'm like, I'm trying to get Shane's attention. Like, I think we got to wrap this up. But they keep calling for more people to get in the ring, and they're shouting out wrestlers. So I was, you know, like at the moment, like I'm taken out of myself. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I'm like, okay, let's see how long this runs. Like, last time I was getting tired. I'm like, oh, this is like much longer than it's supposed to happen. But the people, they're dancing in their seats, they're cheering, they're loving it. So, you know, again, that's how great wrestling is. You get to see stuff like that, and yeah, it's just a great moment to have this now a part of things you really, you know, it's not. And you know, every show is something you can't miss because there's always something different. You have Anniversary, which is our WrestleMania. You have Queen of the North, which spotlights the great independent women in this industry. You have Nightmare at the Mecca, which has now become a big staple, and you know, you never see what you see there because for the Vengeance. But now too, we have this one, you know, tribute to Mama Pan, where it's gonna, you know, obviously we're gonna present great matches, but you have that feel good spirit of that event as well. It's just like we always try to make it, you know, I've said this before, like I like to say that BCW is kind of the fans promotion, and that's why we call them the faithful. They're not just fans or whatever, but it's more, it feels such to me like more of a family atmosphere. The locker room just feels a little more lighter, you know, and like all the I don't know what I hate to say it's like a wait per se, but like just all the fans making sure they come up to me that day and like saying either good things about my who did know her or just say how much they love this particular BCW event. If they haven't been there in a while, they look forward to this show. So yeah, if you have, it's a fun one to come. It's one of you know, my favorite personally because just the energy just feels so much lighter and it's so much more fun. And you know, this year we're looking to have another great time. We're working on the show right now. So
absolutely, and I was at the first one, the Summer on Smash,
yeah,
and I was there for that one, and I remember when you guys got Anthony Cole and all those guys, especially Cole, to start dancing. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "This is supposed to be a wrestling show," but deep down, I'm sitting there going, like, I'm really sitting there going, "Don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh."
No, this is the event that's the time too. You know, where else would you ever get a, you know, Facade doing a, you know, me and Facade were having a Das Wunderkind off. Never would have had that on my bingo card. He all of a sudden starts pulling out the Alex Wright moves. You know, I forget who else pulled. He might have pulled Spin and Rooney out too, but there was somebody else. You know, Mimi was one of the first ones before I even started working with her. She was one of the first ones in the ring to jump in and do, you know, do a little dancing. You don't see that often, so yeah, that was people you never thought you'd see got in that ring and just started having a good time. So yeah, that's it. That's, you never know who else you're gonna see jump in the ring, and you know, for it might be your only chance, and you know, to see them for 2 or 3 minutes, be their real selves.
Absolutely, and it's an event I look forward to. And believe me, not even just with it's the Grand Rumble, but I look forward to going to any BCW shows because you're seeing a lot now. You don't know what to expect, especially now with a lot of these wrestlers getting released. Obviously, we just heard news just broke today that Austin Theory, who has made a run through in BCW before, was released. So you really don't know who you're going to see. And this is why I always tell people, and it's the reason why I will sit here every week and wave the BCW flag as much as I can. Because I'm like, look, you guys, you're going to go to a WWE show or an AEW show and put down a couple of $1,000 for what? To see a match that you're going to be a couple of yards away from?
Yeah.
Where if you go to the Brii Combination, you can get a third row seat and it'll still be like you're sitting front row.
Yes.
And especially when chairs have to start flying because the guys decide it's you're in the fly zone, then it gets real fun. I can't tell you how many times I've had to learn to get my shoes on and run in that place.
I always tell people that's the great thing about independent wrestling when they ask. I'm like, well, it's more intimate. It's like, you know, like WWE, like at the house shows, yes, they get to have a little bit more fun, but that's why on independent wrestling, that happens all the time, and you feel like you're a part of the show. And we had an intermission before the show. You get to have meet and greets. You get to meet them all, and they start to know some of you. Like we have a lot of regular fans that the talent gets to know, and they get a little involved. Person like Darius will come out. He knows who to grab a hat from and throw in the audience. You can mouth a little bit more. You get more involved in the show as a fan too. It's just so much like third row is literally you're almost right on top of the action. So that's a great thing about independent wrestling. You also never know who's going to be the next star. Joe Gacy's the former BCW World Heavyweight Champion. So look where he is now. He was just on the top of a ladder holding one half of the WWE Tag Team Championships at now the second biggest event WWE holds all year. So you never see Austin Theory face Darius Carter at Anniversary 3. You never know. And there's so many. Queen of the North, referee Daphne. She was in the first Queen of the North tournament. So you never know who's going to walk through our doors or come back. You never know what you're going to see at a show. But you get to see the future of professional wrestling, a lot of the current greats. And, I like this, I just like to say, and might sound biased, but I put a lot of our shows against so many either other companies that are independent scene or the big ones. And for, like you said, like $20-$30, you can't beat it.
No. I got two more questions for you before we wrap things up for tonight. Sure. Yeah. Obviously, you guys are on Title Match Network.
Yes.
That's where you can stream all the shows. And I actually asked this to the guest I had on earlier, Joe Gailey from NWA, and I kind of want to get your take on this. With how much pro wrestling we have now, especially on the independent scene, and do you find it's more difficult to attract that casual fan now?
I don't actually. I think because now we're in another boom period, I think. And again, we're seeing, as we saw with Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll, he was on hosting Jimmy Kimmel, and you're seeing them do angles again on mainstream television. Channels have one of the biggest, the Jimmy Kimmel show, one of the biggest late night talk shows. You're seeing Randy Orton, Jelly Roll, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre doing wrestling angles, so wrestling is at that period when we're seeing a lot of celebrities come back to wrestling and want to be a part of it. So I think it's actually the opposite. This is another great time. Maybe I'd say back in maybe 2018 to 2021, 22. Yes, it was tough to get a casual fan involved, but now, like maybe as we said, it's expensive to attend those shows. So maybe there's a flyer in the neighborhood, there's a poster up, and like, it's going to be local wrestling. Hey, let me take, my kids here, instead of spending $500-$600 parking, food, for about $100, you could bring a family of 4, get some pretzels, get some pizza. Parents can don't drink and drive, but you can have a beer if you want, and you get a great night of action. You get, and you're right on top of it. The kids could sit 2 rows and get to see these to them larger than life figures like a Darius, an Anthony Gangone, Tori Smimi, and I've seen that, and it's so great to see live too. Like, of course, we want to get to that big level, but I don't take for granted when I get to see, these fans, young fans, and they look at us like we're superstars. They have that look in their eye that I did when I was 10, 11 years old, but they get to see it like right in front of their faces and to see just the way they get involved. And they're so like, they don't know. They don't understand what kayfabe is, which is great. Like they treat us like Santa Claus, like it's real to them. So to see them, so their faces are animated. Like, it looks like most people when their favorite sports teams are battling in the finals of a World Series or NBA Finals. I love seeing that. One of my greatest things as a performer is if I can get a little kid to hate me. If I can get kids to scream at the top of their lungs, and it's one of the biggest compliments and great feelings in the world. Most people look at me and like, what are you, insane? But like, as a performer, you want that hate because to them it's real. They don't know who AJ Penn, who loves his mom, who hangs out with his friends and hosts karaoke. They see, the guy who helped me take the championship from Vicky out of nowhere. And that's, so that's one of the biggest things. So yeah, the casual fan love when they come and they get all involved and be sitting like, and then they're begging the parent, we want to come back next. We want to see this. We want to cheer these people on again. We want to see all these people again. So we're in a great period for wrestling right now.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying. Last question I got for you, and this is a question that I think a lot of people within the BCW faithful would love to hear an answer.
Oh, okay.
When are we going to get AJ Pan versus Cheyenne Ortiz in the middle of BCW ring?
Well, if you missed Queen of the North, it finally all broke down, and we announced that at the Grand Rumble that will be taking place.
Oh, okay. That answers my question very quickly.
Yes, everything broke down after Stunning Law and Major League Blondes faced each other. So I still don't know how it happened, but Samira ended up on commentary for that match. I didn't clear it. I don't believe Anthony Coulter. I believe Cheyenne got his little, whatever relationship they have, and she was at rings, and I just couldn't take it. She hasn't been around for a little while, and now she's on commentary on one of our biggest shows of the year. I had to call her out. She tried to hit me. Emily stopped her, thank goodness, and just me and Cheyenne, that's how we came to blows. And it's time. It's time we have to settle this once and for all. So it is going to happen at the Grand Rumble. That's one of the big matches that are going to take place on that night. And it will be a Lower East Side street fight.
Jeez.
Oh, and we have a guest referee. Samira finally will be refereeing her first match.
So basically what you're saying is you don't want to miss this because the biggest match in BCW history is finally going to happen.
I don't know about that, but it's going to be it's one of the most heated matches. And I'm even the crowd was going nuts for that. So if the faithful want to see it, it's time to give it to them. And I know for about 2 years, and it's funny because it started as a joke about Samira being a referee. Everybody's now been saying, and I don't know. Yeah, I started this as a joke backstage at a BCW event. I don't know who trying to take credit for it, but that's where it started because, again, she was mouthing off backstage. And I was like, well, how would you like to be a referee one day? And she was like, oh, no, I never want to do that. And then I've seen Steve Off and Jerry and other companies always throw that in their comment section on Facebook. Well, started with BCW, and it's going to happen at BCW for the first time. So Samira is finally going to be a ref. So if you want, whoever wanted to see Samira as a ref, come to the Grand Rumble, even if you don't come to see me and Cheyenne.
But I look at this way, though, AJ. You and Jelly Roll now have something in common. You guys are going to both be making your in-ring debuts in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, no, I've been in a few matches. I haven't won, but I'm a former tag team champion.
I did not know that.
I'm a former ECWA tag team champion. Me and Damian Adams are champions. So it isn't. I didn't choose for that to happen. It was a last minute thing. I got thrown into a match. Was not prepared, but I am in the history books as a tag team champion. So Cheyenne, watch out. You don't know what you're dealing with. Championship lineage. Go on Wikipedia. You will find it. Go on YouTube. You will find it. But I am a champion.
Again, guys, the Grand Rumble happens September 21st. It's a Sunday. Doors open at 2, bell times at 3. Definitely get your tickets. Obviously, if you don't know where it is, it's 106 Bergen Avenue. You're not going to miss the building. If you keep driving and you go to 7-Eleven, you went too far.
Yes.
I'm just going to say it that way. And
but if you are going that way, stop at Bobo's and get me a cheesesteak.
We actually had Bobo's last time I was at a BCW show, and it was actually really good.
I love Bobo's. That became one of my favorite spots to stop by once before shows. I barely get to eat much of it, so that's my my breakfast the next day. But they have great cheesesteaks. So yes, if you do go to the 7-Eleven, you know what? You have time. Go down the block, get Bobo's, and please pick me up a cheesesteak.
But again, AJ, I'm glad we were able to finally get you on. It's, it took 4 years, and hopefully next time we have you on won't be another 4 years.
Yes. Hopefully not.
But guys, again, definitely get your tickets. You don't want to miss it, especially for the match of the year. I feel like we're going to have between AJ and Cheyenne.
Ooh, definitely not the match. Meltzer is not going to give that 5 stars at all.
You're going to get 7 stars. What are you kidding?
I'll be happy if we get 2, but you will be entertained. I'll tell you that. You will have a great time while we know. We're definitely going to give it the best we can. What that is, I don't know, but we're definitely going to have a great time with that, and I'm definitely looking forward to finally putting the boots of Cheyenne.
The only way you're going to find out is you have to buy a ticket and be there.
Or you could, we're going to be live streaming it again. So Title Match Network, if you can't make it in person, live stream the event. It's going to be a great time. And you're going to see a great dance party. That's guaranteed. We're doing it again. So who knows who you'll see dancing in the ring this time.
Hey, if I'm them, you may even get me to come in to dance.
Maybe. We'll see what happens. We might be able to get you in there. I've gotten people who never thought they would get in there. I got Michael J. Putty. He said, nope, never happening. And I told the episode, like, nope, people want to get in. Get in. You can't turn me down now.
But again, AJ, you know I will always be one of the podcasts that will always support BCW no matter what. And you guys know, I've said this before, anything BCW related, you guys will hear it. Let me rephrase it. You'll either hear it on Around the Ropes or around the BC Dub world. So one of those two places you're going to hear about it. But again, because I know the reason I said that was I was one of the first that reported about the show happening in September.
Yeah. yeah. I sometimes people hear before I even hear it. So, definitely keep your ears to this podcast. You might get news before I even get it. So.
But again, AJ, I'm glad we're able to get you on, guys. Again, catch BCW September 21st, live from the Mecca, Grand Rumble, tribute to Mama Pan, where the winner will be facing the World Heavyweight Champion at a later time. See, I remember that from last year. And you don't know who's going to be there. And again, guys, it's going to be a great afternoon of action. Again, it's on a Sunday, so just you're going to be prepared for that. But again, guys, BCW is one of the best promotions out there. I'm not just saying this because AJ's on with us. I always said that about BCW. And, what you guys do is phenomenal. And I can't wait to see what we see on September 21st, what the rest of 2025 happens, and going into the next year.
Definitely, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Again, you never know who you're going to see in the Rumble. We had surprises last year. But I can't believe we're halfway through the year already, and definitely we're looking forward to finish off the year strong. There's so many of our our people who are regulars, people we didn't mention, like Daniel Alexander. I love watching him work. So, hopefully we'll see more about him in this year. Jerry, Harleen. There's just so many. And there's other, I was impressed by an earlier man, Diamond Virago. I was impressed by her at anniversary. So, you never know if we'll see her back. Just a great time in wrestling. And there's so much great talent out there. So, as John said, please, I implore you guys to come down. Check us out on the 21st. It's going to be a great time at 21st of December. Check us out at Grand Rumble. That show, specifically, you're going to have a great time. Besides wrestling action, it's a feel-good show. Watch us on the live stream. Check us out on social media. And as always, thank you all for the BCW faithful. Thank you for your support. Anybody else who supports us and just independent wrestling as a whole. You keep us going. So thank you all.
For the governor, I'm John. Catch you guys next time.